Hello, Michelle.
Hi, Steve.
Did you grow up in the Boston area?
I grew up in Billerica, Massachusetts, so just about 30 minutes or so north. Yes,
Bill Ricca. Yes, I've been through there. Did you like so you went to high school, you grew up there, went to high school there and everything. Did you go to
correct.
college or anything after high school?
Yeah, I went to Newbury College in Brookline for culinary arts. and
Culinary
that
arts.
and that's not the job I'm in today.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
crazy. Wow.
yeah.
When you were like young, did you listen to a lot of music? Do you remember some of the first music you listened to? Like, was your family into music and stuff?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I've been singing since I was single digits. I have recordings of my sister and I on, cassette tapes that we called the silly tapes, because that's just what we did in our spare time. And we would just be singing Christmas songs and commercials. But yeah, I grew up, my grandmother on my mother's side was constantly singing things like Tony Bennett and Frank Sinatra, and Bobby Darin at the Copa was one of her favorite, albums. Um, yeah, I grew up with mostly, I think, my grandmother and my grandfather like playing their albums and whatnot, and then I just kind of always loved music, whether it was in the car or growing up. Like obviously, when I was younger, what was popular in pop music at the time was Madonna and Michael Jackson. I listened to a lot of Duran Duran and Aha. Um, but really, I think my sister introduced me because she's older than I am, but I used to try to hang out with her and her friends when I was younger, and because they were the cool kids. And, she introduced me to Van Halen and Def Leppard and Boston and Jay Giles and, Aerosmith, the local Boston, people. And I think from there, I just kind of went off into my own rock and metal world of
Yeah,
discovery.
I'm thinking to me, you're a metalhead. I mean, from what I know about you, we don't know each other that well, but I view you as a metal person. So when did you start? You said you listen to all that pop stuff, and do you remember what the metal was that got your attention? Was it
Oh yeah.
classic metal or was it thrash or
So specifically, and when I really think down about it, when I think it was like when I was around 8 or so years old, that just listening to the radio, and of course MTV was huge back then, so we were glued to it. But really, I think my first exposure to metal was Quiet Riot, Metal Health, and like Twisted Sister, I Want to Rock. So like 8 years old, this little girl, and she's hearing this and seeing this, and like something's bubbling up inside of me, and I'm like, I don't know what this is, but I love this, and I don't know why or if I'm supposed to. And you know
so it must
my
have been
mother,
MTV, right?
yeah, MTV, but
Yeah.
also the radio. I mean, you were glued to the radio too. It's all we had. you
What
know
were you listening to for radio?
I was listening to WAAF,
AF.
BCN, yeah, but I mean, prior to that, it was like WHTT, if you even remember back in, this was like back in the pop, it was pop, mostly pop music, but they did play some rock. But yeah, it was mostly the rock stations that I was glued to, and a lot of the, especially in high school, it was like ERS, and like a lot of the college stations, because, you know, I started playing guitar when I was 15.
That was my
Um,
next question. Thank you for answering it before I
oh,
get to ask it.
well, that's kind of like the real moment, like I kind of always was into rock, and always leaned that way into the harder stuff, Zeppelin, Sabbath, Deep Purple, whatever I could come by with friends from high school, whatever they were playing. Um, Motorhead, Dio, all that stuff. And kind of discovering on my own a lot of the 80s hard rock bands. Like I got the Guns N' Roses tape when I was in the seventh grade. And again, sitting in my bedroom doing my homework, looking at the tape cover going, I can't let my parents know that they know I like this. Like I can't. Like it's evil. But yeah, just I think, my mom really helped me become, you know, she kind of put my foot in the door, because she offered me for Christmas one year two things. One was to join ski club, which I showed interest in. So she's like, all right, we're either going to get you skis or your other interest, which you've been sharing with me, is the guitar, the electric guitar. And I was like, I chose the electric guitar.
Was that water skiing or snow skiing?
No, it was snow skiing.
Snow skiing.
Yeah.
Because I know we're going to talk about you spending your time on water, because I know about that, but we'll get into that later. Were there any guitar players that you like grew interested in early on that you were like, oh, I like the way that person plays?
You know, I think back, and obviously, like, Led Zeppelin was big, so Jimmy Page, was an influence for sure. But I was always like, how does he play that? How does he, because I never took lessons. I taught myself. Sitting watching Headbangers Ball on MTV, and just where are their fingers on the fretboard, and then I would just try to, like, emulate what they were doing. But back then I really didn't have a single guitarist. I mean, if I think real hard, probably honestly, my biggest influence back when I started playing was Steve Clark from Def Leppard.
Good
And
one. Real good one.
it's funny now, like writing songs more, I listen back and I can actually, like, kind of hear his influence. And because I'm a very melodic player, like, I'm not a shredder. That's never been my thing. I'll definitely do leads, but they're always like melodic leads. Ace Frehley's a good example, because I feel like a lot of his solos are like little songs within the song sometimes, and obviously very bluesy and melodic. But yeah, I mean, it's hard to. Steve Clark's the one that kind of comes up to me the most, and I think a lot of people are surprised to hear me say that sometimes too. But I'm like, hey, this is just what I was into at the time. And then from there, I mean, I started getting into that 80s hard rock, like Rat, Dawkins, Tora Tora on the blues side of things, Cinderella, all those bands of
Mid
that era.
80s. Yeah. Yeah. I remember the time well.
Oh,
I
yes,
was
you
in I
do.
was in LA at that time, and when the whole thing just went and
Oh,
exploded.
yeah.
When did you get into a band? When did you start playing with other people?
Yeah, that happened around 2000, actually. I just had moved to Alston. Yeah, it was pretty late. I mean, I was really insecure about my playing for a very long time. And I played a lot of thrash. Like, I started to get into thrash, and I was playing really heavy and fast, stuff, trying to play all those bands like Metallica, Megadeth, obviously the big four, Anthrax, Dio, a lot of Vivian Campbell stuff. And, I just never even thought anyone would want me to be in a band with them, because I just was crippling anxiety with playing, or like playing in front of anyone. But then, like I said, I moved to Alston, and I met Duncan Wilder Johnson.
Wait a minute,
And
was Destruct-A-Thon your first band?
Destruct-A-Thon was my first
So
band.
you've been playing basically with Duncan for 20 years.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, we're like writing partners,
Wow.
brother, sister, like, in a good sense, we're connected in that way. Yeah, we're good musically, and obviously
Oh,
friend
actually,
wise.
I knew you were playing together 20 years, because El Muerto, which we're going to talk about, was 2001 to 2004. So it's fun. So you never played with another band before Duncan.
No,
And how did you
nope.
guys meet? We're talking about Duncan Wilder Johnson, who's been on the show many times, good friend of mine. When did you guys meet? How did you meet?
Well, funny enough, I was going to a spoken word show. He and Dave Tree were doing a spoken word show together. So I went to this show, and saw them perform, and we were all just hanging out after. And the really funny story of how we actually met is because he noticed that there was this guy was like hitting on me, and apparently I looked really uncomfortable, and I definitely remember feeling extremely uncomfortable, because it was just like, oh my gosh, I'm not okay. Turning him down, turning him down. So here comes Duncan. He just puts his arm around me, and he's like, hey, there you are, and like totally pretended to be my boyfriend for the minute. And I was like, thank you, thank you, thank you.
And he's so
Um,
intimidating too, you know?
I know. Well, but from there, we obviously immediately, like that night, we were talking about music and different things. And I was like, yeah, I play. And he's like, oh, wow, okay. And, um, they happened to, I had a party at my house in Alston, if you can believe it, Alston, Rock City.
Yeah.
Um, and, I was just sitting up in one of the rooms, in one of the spare rooms, and I was like noodling around playing Metallica. And my friend Nate at the time, and Duncan, they overheard me playing, and they were like, dude, Michelle's in there jamming on some Metallica, like, and they were trying to form a band at the time, so they're like, why don't we ask her if she wants to join the band, and again, I was just blown away, because I'm like, somebody wants me in their band, this is crazy, um but yeah, that's really the story, and we haven't looked back ever since.
Wow. So did you guys start? How did the whole thing start? I mean, you just got to did they have a rehearsal space already?
Well, it was the basement of the house that Duncan lived in, and it was like this little cramped area. And then, so I would take my little handheld, my tiny little amp and my guitar, and I'd walk over like 2 streets over to where he lived, and we would just kind of jam out and see what we would come up with. And then eventually moved into the Sound Museum. We got the space, our first space at the Sound Museum.
Now, you guys were playing for a while before you released anything. Was there any reason for that, or did you just feel like you weren't ready to like record, or?
Yeah, I mean, we didn't really have songs yet. We were kind of waiting to have catalog, or songs, so that we could have an album. But that first album that we put out was kind of a combination of
Yeah.
Duncan and the band, and really the songs we were writing first on that first album changed drastically. We got real serious after that, going into the other albums. And we just wanted to take our time and make sure that we had some strong, solid metal that we were writing. So I think really that first album was like, our test, our testing ground, and our foot just getting in the door of that world, and in the scene in Boston and stuff. So really proud of that, and proud that I still am, like, if I wouldn't be here today if they didn't ask me to be in that metal band,
And there were a lot of different members too at the beginning, right?
Yeah, we had 3 different drummers, and we had an added guitar player for a while. And Duncan played guitar for a while as well. So we kind of switched it up here and there. The lineup changed a little bit, but it was really, we maintained Sean, our bass player, throughout the duration. And yeah.
Where did you record when you first started recording?
New Alliance.
Cambridge or Boston?
Oh, it was the Fenway. It was the first
1312. Yeah.
Yeah, it was yep. So we had Mark Schleicher and Nick Zampiello recording us.
Oh, nice.
The dream team.
Yeah, I worked with them on a record too. They did a Charms record, So Pretty, around 2004, I think. So yeah, it makes sense. That was right around the time you guys were there. Yep. Wow. Yeah, those guys were great together. I mean, they're still great. They're just not together. One's in New Jersey and one's mastering. But wow, so they did your early recording. So is all the stuff on El Muerto? Am I saying it right?
El Muerto, yeah.
El Muerto. I'm
yeah.
Trying to be more Spanish, but it's hard with some Italian. But I'm trying. Once when you released that in 2006, I wasn't around at that time, so I had moved to out of state, but I don't remember this. Did you guys like have a big splash coming out of the box with your record and play a lot of shows and do any touring or anything at that time?
We definitely were relentless with trying to play shows and doing interviews, getting on BCN, promotion. We did take a 10-day tour, kind of up and down the East Coast, which was really, really awesome. And it was pretty much the height of our time together. And then we were then after asked to play the Rumble. So that was really fun too. And, we ended up being the wild card, so making it pretty far, which was super fun.
Was it still the WBCN Rumble at that time?
It was, yeah, it was. And it was a dream come true, so it was kind of cool for me to be able to say to like my family, my sister, be like, we're in the Rumble. Can you believe it? This is so great. And
And you
yeah,
played the
it was a great experience.
finals. Yeah, and you played the finals because you're a wild card. Where was that held at that time?
We did. It was the Middle East.
Downstairs, the Middle East. Who won
Yeah.
that year?
It was Gene Dante.
Gene Dante. He's still out there doing it.
Oh yeah. Yep. Love it. Yep,
Boston's
definitely.
David Bowie. That's what I
I
call him.
know. Yes,
Boston's David
wonderful.
Bowie. So then you did Aloha Jihad, correct?
Yes.
And that was with Ethan. I that I do know because I saw it on the Bandcamp page. And so did you guys rehearse at the place in Cambridge when they moved over there, or did you keep your old rehearsal space at Sound Museum?
No, so we had to leave that space back then, and we ended up moving over to Denby Street, over to the studios on Denby Street, a few blocks down, not that far down. It was right near Rug Road, down
Yeah.
there in Austin. Yeah, so that was where we spent. That was really where we. That was it. That was the rest of the band was spent there at that space, and we played some shows there. We actually ended up recording some demos after Aloha Jihad with Brian Fair out in his studio that never saw the light of day, unfortunately. But we still have those demos rolling. And then unfortunately, the band just, broke up after that. And we kind of all went and did our own things and splintered off into different bands from there.
Those demos will end up on Bandcamp one day. I know they will. I have that feeling.
I know I should well, either that on the Thrashachusetts page. I know I should talk to Duncan about that actually.
So there's a lot of time between that period and Catching Hell. Were you doing other projects or playing with other people during that time?
Yeah, well, at the same time, towards the end of Destruct-A-Thon, I'd actually Nick Zampiello and I formed a band together called Stu Walker, and it
Oh,
was yeah, it was just the two of us. It was like a kind of like an electronic swing type band with layered vocals. We created all the music together and all the lyrics. And then when we played out, we had a live band of which Ethan had played bass for us. We had some revolving members, but Owen Bean was on guitar. We had Dave Jarvis playing drums with us.
wow,
Um,
all-star band.
yeah, it was a really cool band. Super fun. It gave me room to just be a singer, for a while and kind of just focus on that. Although I did play keyboards as well in the band. And then really what I did was my focus was primarily on my other art, which is jewelry making. I'm a metalsmith as well. So I really dove into that mostly for a very long time and kind of worked on I have a workshop. So I was building that out, trying to buy stones and metal and, getting into different, like I started off with craft shows and then kind of going to more like festivals. Like I was a vendor at the Tweed River Music Festival way back when that was going on.
Wow.
And yeah, it was good. So I kind of took a break from music too for a while. And then I want to say it was about 2014 or so. My best friend, whose music is amazing, and she's been a piano player for her whole life. She started writing like rock songs, like kind of punk rock songs, and sharing them with me. And she was like, I think I want to do a band. And she, it was kind of like, wow, okay, let's see what we can do. So we ended up getting an all-girl band together, and that was called Stroke Volume.
Who was in that
Um,
band and who was your best friend?
my best friend's Michelle Herron. She's she's not in the scene very much at all. This is kind of a one-off thing for her. But it was her baby. She wrote all the songs, all the lyrics, and we definitely helped her. We had Kelly Dimbat was on
Oh, I know
rhythm
Kelly.
guitar. Yeah,
I know
yep.
Kelly
And
because she used to manage a band when I first moved to Boston in '98. She was Random Road Mother's manager.
Yes,
And
he was.
I came here and I was managing bands myself, and I was booking the Linwood when the Linwood was there.
Oh
And
yeah.
Kelly and I did a lot of stuff together. I've known Kelly for a long time. Wow. Wasn't there a Led
Yeah.
Zeppelin cover band or something that she was doing for a while?
No, I don't know if she was I'm not aware of that. I'm not aware of that.
Maybe I'm thinking of something else. I know
Well,
that she was.
she's currently in like a cover band with her husband Charlie. They do like their own cover band. Saturday nights they all get together and they do with a bunch of other people and they work on music together. Yeah.
Nice. So Kelly was in the band. Who else?
Yep, it was Angela Bruce was our drummer. She's amazing. She's actually got a really cool, great new band now called Drug Deal Gone Rad.
Oh, I love the
Um,
name.
yeah, they're really cool. She's singing and playing drums in that band. So we're hoping to, our new band, Catching Hell, we're really hoping to get a show together with them in Lowell at some point or in the area. But yeah, so that was a short-lived band. We did do a recording, but it was just at Kelly and Charlie's house. They have a recording studio at their in their shed at their space. So we recorded there and we played a bunch of shows live, and then it was just the kind of just went away, and we started to do again, splintered off and did other musical projects, and it's kind of around 2015 when Duncan and I started to be like, all right, I'm getting the itch to write some rock and metal. Like, what do you want to do? Do you want to get together? And so he just started coming up to my house. I have a band space in my house. So
Where
um,
are you? Do you still live right out in Alston, or are you like? Uh,
I wish. No, I live in Pelham, New Hampshire.
oh,
So yeah, I bought a house in Pelham. I'm on an acre of land. It's beautiful.
nice.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, I have my own band space in my house, so it's really great. So he started coming up here, and we just sat for, really, it was a couple of years that we slowly started to write some new songs and share our riffs and our vocal ideas into like a Dropbox and kind of compile everything. Um, and it's really where Catching Hell started. But we didn't have that band name for a very long time.
Well, I know you guys did a lot of recording. I'm also guessing that Duncan came up with the name, right?
Actually, I came up with the name.
You did?
I did. I did. Yeah, and I don't. It just happened to stick, and basically it was like, okay, did we look it up? Does anyone have this? Okay, good.
I had never heard the name, so I think you got it. I think you're the first.
I know, pretty psyched. We had a long running list of names, that we would just chime in with and kind of add to that note in our phones.
But it wouldn't shock me though if you found out there was a band called Catching Hell in Norway or someplace like that, or Finland or Sweden.
I I think we did see something like Catch Hell, and it might have been Germany or something, but they were not. I don't think they were an active band anymore. And I was like, all right, this is different. This is in the U.S. Let's just see what we do with this. And I really like the name. I'm glad that it stuck. It looks good on the t-shirts.
Yeah.
Um,
If you're listening right now, you'll have to go over to YouTube and you're gonna have to check out the video to see the shirt. It is a cool shirt. I'm gonna have to bug my friend about getting one of those. I like it. It's very cool.
yeah,
I'm wearing a stiff little finger shirt today. So
nice.
um, so now, from what I understand, is I believe you guys started recording, but you didn't really have a name yet, and you recorded with Ethan again over at New Alliance in Somerville this time.
Yes.
And I'm pretty sure, did you get it all done before the pandemic, or did the pandemic put like a roadblock on everything for you?
No, we basically got it done. I can't even believe that we did, but we did. And then that all happened. So like obviously the practices, the rehearsals ceased. But we were still in communication, with Ethan about, mixing, and then going over to Nick for mastering. And so we were still able to keep the ball rolling. And luckily, and then, just from there, we recorded with a different drummer and bass player. So we had Owen Bean playing drums and we have Will Sullivan on bass. And then, unfortunately, that disbanded. And then we ended up, reforming with Charlie Harold on drums. and Alan Martin on bass. So that is now our new lineup. We did not get to play out live with Owen or Will, so it's just really on that recorded EP right now. And so the band has reformed.
Is that
for the
Will from
live.
Toxic Narcotic?
It is,
Yeah,
yeah, it is. Yep.
thought so. So I remember, because I used to spend a lot of time over in Somerville, and I still do, but not as much because the podcast room's gone there. I was recording there for a while, but I
I
know
remember.
I heard those mixes many, many times when the mixes were being done. It seemed like a really long That's what happens when you have people that are friends working together, like Ethan and Duncan are like, they're intertwined with each other. So it's like, it seemed like that record was being mixed for like a year, like all of 2020. Like for about 3 months,
Yeah.
none of us were there. But then in June, we started going back to the studio. So
Yeah.
when did it actually get finished?
So I want to say it was, 2020, the end of 2020 into 2021. I mean, but we really took our time with it, and tried to make sure that it was sounding exactly the way that we wanted to. And luckily, Ethan was very patient with us, and and just with our information about, hey, can we just maybe bring the bottom end up a bit? Like, we want to hear more of the drums, or we want to hear, more of the guitars, in these parts, or let's blend it differently. I mean, we took our time. We really wanted to make sure that that it was sounding the way that we, felt that it wanted to be strong, and so that you could hear everything cut through perfectly, and I think that we ended with a great product. We're really proud of that. I wrote a lot of the songs this time, where I know Duncan was the primary songwriter for Destruct-A-Thon, and then I would, obviously add and write with him. But a lot of these songs came right from me, and it's kind of, again, like you're bearing your soul, and it's like, oh my gosh, is
Do you write
anyone
the
gonna like
lyrics
this?
too?
Yeah.
So you wrote the lyrics and the music.
Yep. Melody, there's a few of the songs,
Do
Twilight
you
Mind and New Way to Bleed, that I just wrote top to bottom, the music, the lyrics, all of it.
do you have a lot of songs like lying around? Did you do a lot of songwriting, but you have songs that still haven't seen the light of day yet?
Yeah. There's definitely some ideas. I keep a lyric book, so I just jot down if something just pops into my head, which most of the time is while I'm driving. I have no idea why, and then I can't do anything about it but a voice memo as I'm driving. But yeah, I mean, I've got some content that is put away, and once in a while, we'll start to be like, all right, let's think about writing a new song. What does everyone have? So we've kind of been trying to share everyone's ideas into a shared folder, Dropbox, where we can kind of pull from. So like, we're even currently writing a new song right now, which is it's been really fun.
I know Duncan well enough to know he moves at he's involved in all these different projects always, and he
Yeah.
moves at kind of a slow pace, but he's very like proficient about the way he does things. So it doesn't surprise me that these things take a little while to do. I even did a few podcasts with him, and it took a while to do those because he's just the way he is. I love the guy. Now
Oh yeah.
I know you guys played this pretty big show in Cambridge with Scissor Fight and Blood Lightning. And was there another band? Or was it just three bands? Or
It was just the three bands.
yeah.
Yeah.
And how was that show? I mean, I heard the show was good, but how was it from your perspective?
It was great. It was a really great show. I mean, obviously, I had played out, live with, like I said, Stroke Volume, my former band, and I'd played with Duncan a few times, but just not like this. This effort that we've made with this band, I think, is the biggest effort that we've made, collectively. And we're really proud of the songs. The show went really well. I'm pretty sure it sold out.
Probably.
We were so excited to even get a Friday night, being a new
Middle East and
band,
Cambridge, right?
the Middle
Yeah.
East upstairs. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then to have Blood Lightning, who's also a great new metal band. Also another like super group of awesome players. And then Scissor Fight. I mean, it was kind of like a dream come true to be able to, we've never played a show with Scissor Fight. So that was amazing, and those guys actually had me up, and I played one song with Scissor Fight. So it was
You
really
did?
just Super fun. Yeah, it was great.
So you and Jay Fortin were dueling guitars up there?
Yes, and he shared with me after that honestly, like that doesn't really happen often that anyone comes up and like plays with them. So I kind of made scissor fight history, if I can say that.
Yeah, I mean, I remember he played guitar with Caged Heat for a while, and there were two guitars in that band, but I can't think of him
Yeah.
ever doing that with Scissor Fight. I used to see
Yeah, it was
Scissor Fight a
fun.
lot, but that was a while ago. I've not seen them with their new singer. I know it's been a while since Iron Lung's been gone, but
Yeah.
still haven't seen that guy yet. But I've heard it. I've heard it sounds great. So what's your plan now? Do you guys have other shows booked for the future?
We do. We've got some stuff in the pipeline. Show in Lowell upcoming probably towards the end of the year. We've got a show in Worcester also at the end of the year. So we'll be announcing these things as they come up and as they're getting finalized. And we're obviously these days you got to book pretty far out. So we're now
Yeah.
looking to get some shows, early next year and into the spring as well. So we've got some ideas flowing and some stuff
Do
in
you
the
know the
pipeline.
venue in Worcester? Because Duncan and I are both Worcester County guys, so we like to talk about Worcester a lot. Is it Ralph's?
Yeah, it's going to be Ralph.
Ralph's,
Yep.
yeah, it's good venue. That's the best place to play now that the lucky dog has left us.
I
I just
know.
I was on Green Street yesterday in Worcester, and the neighborhood's unrecognizable. I mean,
Oh,
it's like
wow.
there's all huge condos all around the new baseball stadium, and where the lucky dog is, they're building another huge building, and I'm like, what? Because I used to go there when it was Sir Morgan's Cove, because I grew
Oh,
up in
yeah.
Webster, Mass,
Oh, okay.
and which is a little ways from Billerica. Billerica, for you people listening all around the world, is on the north part of Boston. I wouldn't say North Shore, but it's like more inland on north where you're from.
Yeah.
Now,
It,
I'm sorry.
oh, no, I
So
was going to say it borders Lowell. Yeah.
Lowell, yeah, Jack Kerouac's
Lowell.
town. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lowell is one of those towns where they keep saying it's like Worcester. It's up and coming. It's up and coming. Like I've been waiting for like 20 years for it to
For
come.
decades. Yeah. Yeah.
But Boston's getting so huge now, and it's moving so many people out that some of these other cities are going to have to start stepping up.
I
That's
agree.
that's all there is to it. Um, okay, so you mentioned your jewelry business, and I was going to ask you about that. Do you still do a lot more of that? Do you do like shows? How do you sell your jewelry?
Yeah. So I basically sell it online, and a lot of it is custom work, and it's mostly word of mouth, just me kind of advertising through social media. I have a workshop that's separate from my house, which is really great. I was going to put like an announcement out saying that I'm actually having it like redone because I have a little bit of a mold problem in there right now. So
Oh,
there's going to be a rebuild. So I'll have a brand new little workshop I'm super excited about. But in the meantime, I'm going to move my operation out to my garage. But no, I really haven't done any shows or any kind of, events with the jewelry in a long time. So really it's my Etsy page that I have. And then again, just advertising through social media.
what is there a name or a website where people can find you?
Yeah, it's michelemorganjewelry.com, and Michelle is spelled with one L. But that's my website, and if you go there, it's just a really simple one pager that shows photos of my art, and then you can link up to all the different socials and as well my online Etsy page.
Got to plug you. We're giving you a plug here.
Thank you.
Now this I'm really interesting about because Duncan told me to definitely ask you about this when I was talking to him. Okay, now I don't know how or what or anything about it, but you race boats.
I do. I race power boats. Yeah, this is something that I grew up racing in motorsports. My dad was the influence. He raced outboard speedboats when he was younger, and then when I was about, I don't know, 11 or 12, one day he just shows up at home with an inboard hydroplane and a motorhome. And he's like, come here, girls, to me and my sister. Come on, look, this is what we're going to do. This is what we're going to do now. And we're like, what is that, a spaceship? Like, what the heck is this? So he, started racing inboard hydroplanes. And so we became his crew. essentially. And so we learned with him, how to, maintain the, a 350 Chevy, and working on engines, and, grew up with him in the garage our whole life, handing him tools and like trying to learn, we do our own oil changes on our cars, but, eventually.
People don't use the term tomboy anymore, but can I use it now?
I'm a complete tomboy. Yeah. I grew up that way. We were his sons,
Yeah, so no boys, just you and your sister, and that's it. Wow,
Yeah, exactly.
your father really, this is a funny story. So you were kind of treated like the boys, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, luckily we took to it. We weren't like, we don't want to do this. It was riveting to us, and we wanted to learn, and we felt the power and the energy of these motors and this racing, and my father, went from racing a 5-liter inboard hydroplane to then selling that and buying a 7-liter. So we even jumped up to a bigger motor, which ended up being like a 468 Ford, 800 horsepower. And then from there, I just started to kind of get into one of the other powerboat classes that race in the same circuit, and that's the Jersey Speed Skiff class. And this is more of a V-bottom boat. It's still an inboard, but there are 2 people. You have the driver and the riding mechanic navigator. And so over time, I started to get into that class. Now, these boats were typically whiskey runners back in the days of Prohibition. So it's a really cool classic race boat. We're still classic in a sense that, I started riding in many different teams. I would just fill in as the navigator and the riding mechanic. And really, we're using hand signals to communicate with one another. We don't have radios. So I basically just kind of tell my driver where the boats are on the course around us. I look at the gauges. I make sure that we have oil pressure and that we have oil temperature, water temperature.
This is lakes, right? You do this
This
on
is
lakes?
Yep, lakes and rivers. Exactly. There's some salt water that we race on down in Hampton, Virginia. But yeah, and really just racing in that class, I just found that I enjoyed racing in the Jersey Speed Skiff more so than in a hydroplane. I had raced a hydroplane a few times, but this to me, was just more exciting. And you're with another person, you're a team together. And actually, this year. Well, at the end of last year, I had thought my team was going to retire. It just seemed that was happening. And then I got a call around Christmas time, and the owner driver of my boat and team had asked me to drive. So that's cool. So this has been my rookie year.
So where are you based out of? Where's this happen?
So the boat is out of Pennsylvania.
Oh.
Yeah, the boat owner has a marina in Maryland. So he lives in Pennsylvania, but has a marina in Maryland. That's where the boat lives. So they, the team takes the boat to the different races, and then I just kind of meet them at the races. But we race anywhere. It's funny you say that you're from Webster, Mass.
Don't tell me you race on Lake Chagagagaga Chagabunga Mog. I know I didn't say it right, but I tried.
I'm not even going to attempt it. But yes, in that Veterans Park, we actually, I don't know if you recall that there was a hydroplane powerboat race on that lake for many years, and we would absolutely be there.
Wow.
Yeah, we used to race in Lowell on the Merrimack, right there at the UMass Boathouse area. That was our pits. And, unfortunately, a lot of these races are put on, with money that's raised and sponsorship. So a lot of them fail. But the current races that I go to in the circuit are anywhere from all the way up into Quebec near Montreal, down to Lakeland, Florida. So it's mostly up and down the East Coast, New Jersey, Maryland, Virginia.
You have a very interesting life, Michele.
Oh,
Rock
thanks.
and roller, jewelry maker, and a boat racer. Wow. Those are 3 careers over here.
It's all metal.
It is all metal. It is.
It's all metal.
Before I let you go, I have to ask you this question. I like to ask people this. Do you listen to a lot of music? I mean, are you listening to a lot of new music? Do you listen on a turntable? Do you stream? Do you go to the old stuff? I mean, what is going on besides your own music?
Yeah, I try to get into some new music these days, but man, am I stuck in the back in the day age. You know what I mean? So yeah, I have a separate room in my house that is not my band room. That is my den that has all my vinyl. I have like a wall of vinyl. I definitely love my playing records. I love classic rock. I love my 80s hard rock. I love my metal and thrash. But I definitely do dive into some R&B and some jazz and like things that maybe you wouldn't think that I would listen to. But I really I listen to a wide array of music, but mostly the rock and the metal.
Is there like some
Um,
real favorites that you have? I always have to ask this question, and I always got to know.
well, and honestly, it still is very much so like Motorhead, Dio, very classic Sabbath. Some, and I still frequent a lot of the local bands that I learned of in high school, honestly, that I just can't ever stop playing. And that would be, as you know, Tree, Honky Ball, Sam Blackchurch, Only Living Witness, Milligram. I mean,
Oh,
those are,
Boston bands. Yeah, yeah,
oh, absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and a lot of the newer bands that are coming out, around us, like I said, Blood Lightning, Kind. There's just
I
so many, I
love
can't even list
Kind.
it.
Kind is so
Yeah.
good. Daryl Shepard. Oh, it's incredible.
Yep. My hero.
He's got, he just keeps getting better. I mean, when I saw The Long Wait, I went to see The Long Wait.
Oh
I was just
yeah.
blown away by them and his guitar playing. He turned those hardcore guys into like a total stoner
I love
hard
what they're
rock
doing.
band. Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
there's something you have to help me settle because you brought up Dio and Sabbath because Duncan and I fight about this all the time. He refuses to include any of the Dio records into his favorite Black Sabbath records. He'll give you your top 10, but he won't put Heaven and Hell in there. So can you
Oh,
like tell me if you're on my side or his side? Because I think Heaven and Hell is one of the 5 best Sabbath records.
yeah, I got to agree with you on that. It's really hard, man, because when I discovered Sabbath, the first Sabbath record I ever bought was Live Evil. And
Wow.
I had no clue. I had no clue about the story, about anything. I just saw the words Black Sabbath. The cover was amazing, and I'm like, this is it. I have to buy it. I had no idea, but yeah, I absolutely. I mean, come on, Vinny Appice. I mean, oh my goodness. No, I love both of those eras. Um,
Me
it,
too.
it to me they're two separate bands. They're two separate kind of versions of that band. I mean, they should have called themselves Heaven and Hell.
Okay, so
You
you
know,
are leaning more towards the Duncan side, and I agree. I agree with that. I wish they would have called themselves Heaven and Hell right away, but Tony Iommi refused to like let go. I mean, they went through so many
and I
other
get it.
singers.
Yep,
He's
I totally get that too. I know, right? I mean, Ian Gillan being in there,
yeah,
Glenn Hughes, that one
yeah.
album. I mean, Seventh Star as
Tony
well. I mean,
Martin.
yeah, yep. So it's funny. The Born Again album. I mean, come on. This is like everything. They're starting to now that they're putting out those remasters of the albums on the anniversaries. Like I think people are rediscovering some of those, later Aussie era Black Sabbath albums that really were kind of cast aside back then because they were just so vastly different. Like, oh, this is the '80s. Going in, bringing in like keyboards and different kind of songs that were not the classic album.
I do
Of
love Ozzy though. I'm not saying I just
course.
think Dio is just a better singer. I mean,
Oh,
different, but it just when I hear Heaven and Hell, it's like it's so
oh,
hard to beat that
absolutely.
record. It's just amazing. Thank you for coming on the
Thank you,
show.
Steve. Thanks for having me. This was really fun.
You have a real interesting life. I am like blown away by all that you're doing all this. I think it's fantastic.
Thanks, Steve. I like to lead a full life and, do things that make me happy and maybe take risks.
I, I can't wait to
Right?
see. I can't wait to see Catching Hell. It sounds like you guys are definitely onto something.
Yeah, we'll keep you posted. Keep on our socials. And, we're on Bandcamp, we're on Facebook, Instagram, Catching Hell Band. Look us up.
Cool. Thanks, Michelle.
All right. Thanks, Steve. Talk to you soon.